One of the most cancerous practices to gain traction in the tabletop role-playing game sphere in recent years is that of refluffing. To refluff something is a term derived from the concept of fluff, being the term for the lore and flavor of a setting, and the crunch being the hard mechanics. For example, a long sword etched with runes is the fluff. The 1d8 damage it deals is the crunch. To refluff something is simply to change the thing the mechanics represent. For example, you can refluff some weapon as a spiked chain, and thus have a spiked chain that deals as much damage as you want. In other words, it means a complete disregard for the rules and everything they stand for. It is the part of the new wave hippy-trippy, faux-libertarian mindset toward RPGs, mostly toward D&D, that has become vogue in recent years. Why? Why has this happened? Well, with D&D 3.5 and all of its rules-laden tard fuckery, a natural backlash formed. This was partly the story gamer narrativists of the Forge Forum, but the role of imbeciles on Reddit cannot be understated. These are the same people who popularized, then normalized, Session Zero. They think that anything counts as playing D&D, even having a drug-induced orgy, so long as everyone is having fun. They are mindless hedonists, and that is what refluffing represents, this laziness, this narcissistic demand for every detail of one's character to not only be in one's control, but to also be the most mechanically optimal choice as well. This is pathetic and degrades the hobby, and saying, "It's not your game, it's not your business," is a retarded cope. Everyone reasonable knows that this is stupid. If you can do whatever you want, then why use rules at all? The rules have no meaning or relation to the game world whatsoever. This destroys verisimilitude, or any sense of consistency, or any real purpose to the rulebook at all. If mechanics in the game don't relate to objects in the game world, then they become pointless. However, in the modern paradigm of pathological subjectivity, these arrogant fucks can excuse anything under the tautology of "I should have it because I want it." So yes, refluffing is for retards. Good luck convincing any of them on it, however. They are so far up their own asses that they see all previous edifices of D&D culture as toxic and outdated, so they tear them down and rarely mention them. Anything that isn't conducive to the wishes of the great and imperious god of fun is useless and to be discarded without further thought. Refluffing invalidates the entire rules infrastructure, like pulling out the one block of the Jenga tower that causes the whole thing to collapse. According to these homosexual theater kid types, this just shows you don't need rules at all. Perhaps that is true, but it is also completely antithetical to the entire concept of a role-playing game, something that contains the word game. Games have rules. This shouldn't have to be explained, but apparently D&D is no longer a role-playing game, but a collaborative storytelling experience. Everything has had its definition changed, and this is important as it is a gateway to changing how the game itself is played. This is why definitions are important, and why refluffing is stupid, because the mechanical identities of objects in game are meant to be a certain way for the rules to make sense. Changing the identity of something, but not making the corresponding change to its mechanics, just cheapens the game, lowers its legitimacy and value. For those who say the entire game is imaginary anyway, so it has no legitimacy, perhaps you should find a hobby you actually have respect for, instead of constantly degrading and deriding it whenever it is inconvenient to you to have it that way. Why even bother? Just do free-form roleplay, or just leave, because you are the type of person who has been ruining this hobby for over a decade with your cancerous ideas. All the fiction first And story-first idiocy is a plague, because it inspires one pillar of gameplay at the expense of others. And this can be seen in Critical Role, whose players barely know the rules and constantly screw with them to make their retarded modern slang speaking characters work. It can be seen in the countless games derived from it, the lack of respect for the game by newcomers who have just arrived in the hobby and yet feel empowered to make changes to it. They hide behind their faux libertarianism that they can do whatever they want, and it isn't hurting anyone. But it is hurting the hobby and poisoning new players into methods of play that are unfulfilling. That's what these cock jockeys refuse to understand. They want things a certain way, yet have no conception of why things are how they are. They add change blindly. They fuck up what is around them, then retreat to the high ground of subjectivity to shelter themselves from criticism. Perhaps they should refluff themselves to become less insufferable.